You see, we need to keep our crews busy at this time of year, so we're cutting our prices and passing the savings on to you. So whether your home is wood or stucco and needs an entire facelift, or if it's a brick combination with cracked, peeling moldings, eaves, and overhangs, siding from Sears will enhance the look of your home. In addition, long-lasting, maintenance-free siding will increase the resale value and save you the bother and expense of frequent repainting. And siding from Sears, combined with energy-saving 3/4-inch foam wall insulation, will cut your heating and cooling costs so that you not only save money now, you continue to save all year round. Best of all, when you deal with Sears, you can be sure the job is done right. Call this toll-free number now during our off-season sale, and Sears will arrange for a free in-home estimate. Help you select siding that's just right for your needs. Show you convenient credit plans designed to fit almost any budget, and even arrange for professional installation. So don't delay. Enjoy all the beauty and satisfaction of siding from Sears at super low off-season prices. Call now and save 15% on siding from Sears and get energy-saving 3/4-inch foam wall insulation at no additional cost.
This is a limited time offer, so act now. Call 1-800-633-6600 for your free in-home estimate. Remember, that number is 1-800-633-6600. That's 1-800-633-6600.
Johnny, weren't your young cousins also involved with these preachers?
Yes, I was.
In a sexual way?
Yes.
How old were your cousins when they got involved with these guys sexually?
My youngest cousin was 9 or 10, and then the next one was, I believe, 13, 14.
9 or 10?
9 or 10, and then 13 or 14.
Who did you tell, Johnny?
Excuse me?
Who did you tell? Who did you tell about what was going on? Who did you tell about what they were doing to you, to your cousins?
I told my mother at first, and she got in touch with a detective here in Roanoke.
This, thankfully, is an example of a case that has, to the extent that these tragedies can, a happy ending. Let me introduce you now to Jenny Montgomery and Morgan Scott. They are assistant U.S. attorneys. They're in Roanoke. They are the two who successfully prosecuted this case. Congratulations, really, to both of you. Why were you able successfully to prosecute these people, either Morgan or Jenny? Whoever cares to respond. What was the turning point in this case?
I think the turning point in the case was when the FBI began to assemble a greater number of victims, Geraldo, after the first reports from Roanoke County, one of which involved Johnny, who spoke to you earlier.
Did they...
The FBI's investigation is what actually was the turning point, the effort that the Federal Bureau of Investigation put into locating victims and interviewing them.
The federal government's involvement was critical, was it not? Because here you had traveling preachers who would take their tents. They would sexually abuse a boy in one town, would then move across a state line and evade local prosecution. Is that the way they stayed away from prosecution for so long?
In part, that was the reason, but the other part of it was due to the fact that these young men didn't want to have to talk about this to anyone. And these people told them, as you heard earlier, that this was appropriate behavior according to the religious teachings that they had.
Let me stress again. Here we have Milton in our studio audience, and we have Greg, and we have Alan, and we have Jack, particularly in these first three cases. Yesterday, members of our studio audience were critical of these fellows for not coming forward sooner. But listen again how in the case in Virginia, the preachers, in an exercise of devious manipulation, used religious teaching to keep the kids quiet, used their faith to protect themselves, used the kids' faith to protect themselves. Jenny, were you touched emotionally by the fact that here you had preachers who were doing these awful crimes to these kids.
Oh, very much so. It was very difficult and a very emotionally intense case to interview each of these victims and to hear what has happened to them. And it took its toll very much on my mental health during this case. It was very hard to do.
Are you a religious person yourself?
Yes, I am.
Is that the reason that it took that toll on you?
I think it took more of the toll because it was so hard to believe or hard to fathom what had happened to these young, naive, innocent young boys. A lot of them are still very immature and naive, and to see what had happened to them when they were 12 and 13 years old, it was heartbreaking.
Do you have any real idea how many of these youngsters were sexually molested by this trio?
According to the admissions and confessions of Reverend Tony Leyva, he admitted that it could be as many as 100. We have actual names to go with 40 victims, and the experts tell us that if the person who's been involved, the pedophile, admits as many as 100, that there are probably as many as 300. He'd been doing this for 20 years and admitted that he'd had sexual relations with a boy in almost every town he traveled to, either one that he brought with him or one that he seduced in the town when he arrived.
A pedophile version of Elmer Gantry.
Something like that.
The youngest boy?
I believe the youngest one was about 9 years old when it occurred.
Sexual abuse
we had,
by clergy. Excuse me, Jen, we've got to take a break. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Okay, Mom, you want us to eat oatmeal? Huh? We want new oatmeal swirlers. It's wholesome oatmeal. You'll feel good about giving us the only one with this pouch, made with real fruit that we get to swirl on. Real strawberry, raspberry, or apple cinnamon. And oatmeal swirled with real fruit tastes great. So here's the deal. You buy oatmeal swirlers, we'll eat a good hot breakfast.
New oatmeal swirlers, the oatmeal you both want.
It hurts. Sinus pressure and headache. It really hurts. Sinutab combines the painkiller and Tylenol with the decongestant and Sudafed to give you more than either one alone. It stops the pain. Sinutab stops the pain.
Ready?
In a minute, honey.
It's nice to be noticed for what you wear and how you look. And if you wear dentures, it's nice to know Efferdent freshens up dentures and cleans away stains so well. With Efferdent, all they'll notice is you.
For transcripts, please send $3 to Journal Graphics, Geraldo Transcripts, 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 10007. Or call 212-227-READ.
When I was little, my friends and I would play beauty parlor. Ooh, did we get in trouble. Even in high school, I dreamed of being a beautician, but figured I'd never have enough money to go to school. Then I heard about Coastal Training Institute. The next thing I knew, they had me lined up with financial aid and I was in school. Now I'm a cosmetologist, a graduate from the best school around, and I did it with a little help from Coastal.
You can do it too. Call Coastal Training Institute today.
The excitement in Philly is growing.
And you can feel it, actually.
On win, lose, or draw.
We are having the time of our lives.
Mr. T and Brad Garrett are all set.
I'm just so tough, I'm just ready.
And Entertainment Tonight's Nina Blackwood is raring to go.
Very risque.
These stars are freedom fighters for fun.
So it can be done.
So get ready for an all-out battle at the board.
It's real hard to do this unless you have one of those.
And catch history in the making.
That's how it happened.
And it's all on the next Win, Lose, or Draw.
Weekdays at 6:30 on WLBT.
The Mississippi Education Expo, a unique and exciting statewide event coming to Jackson December 3rd and 4th at the Trade Mart on the fairgrounds. This landmark show will focus on the vital role that education, both public and private, plays in the economic development process and will feature activities and exhibits from more than 75 businesses and schools. For more information, call 957-2335, the Mississippi Education Expo.
Unfortunately, there are children who won't have a warm coat to wear this winter. That's why we're asking you to help us with our Coats for Kids campaign in order to help needy families get coats in our area. You're welcome. We're asking you to drop off new or gently worn coats to Jackson fire stations, the United Way, or WLBT on or before November 18th. We're counting on you because we know you care.
Morgan Scott, Assistant U.S. Attorney, can you tell us briefly what kinds of prison sentences these three received?
All right, Mr. Leyva, the lead defendant in the indictment, faces up to 20 years in the federal penitentiary. And the other two defendants, Rias Edward Morris and Freddie Max Herring, face up to 15 years in federal imprisonment.
Sounds good to me. Greg here, one of the victims of sexual abuse at the hands of his priest, has something you'd like to say.
I'd like to know when. All I heard you say is what everyone else has either said or already knows. When are you, the church, going to do something? When is the church going to take responsibility? We've opened up doors you've had locked. Why were they locked in the first place? Please don't let this cycle continue.
Would you like to respond, or John, would you like to take it, John? Sure, John.
The church normally sends these people to certain centers that they have in New Mexico, in Washington, and there are also a lot of support groups that they have around the country.
Why shouldn't they go to prison like these three preachers?
Well, normally, if they report the matter to the superior in question, the superior by law is supposed to inform the civil authorities. And if that happens, the normal prosecution would take place and they would be sentenced just like anybody else.
Tony, are they informing the civil authorities? Are they telling people like the U.S. attorneys?
No. Across the country, we're finding cases that the only time that they're finally coming out is when we actually file suit. In one instance in Louisiana, I advised the diocese of a sexual molestation, serious cases of 5 young girls. 7 months after we advised them, the priest was still a pastor in his church. It took me filing the lawsuit to get him removed.
Let me read a statement by the U.S. Catholic bishops. It reads, just briefly, the U.S. Catholic bishops are deeply committed to addressing incidents of pedophilia positively, to making strong efforts to prevent child abuse, to repairing whatever damage has been done, and to bringing the healing ministry of the church to bear wherever possible. Do you think this is true, Bro?
No, as a matter of fact, that statement was issued on February the 9th, I believe, 1988, 2 days after the document had been filed in court in Jackson, Mississippi, the 197-page document that was prepared by Father Doyle and 2 other individuals that was mailed to every bishop in America that gives them suggestions as to how they can destroy documents, conceal evidence, and if necessary, place it in the Vatican to avoid discovery. I'm sorry, the Vatican Embassy in Washington to avoid discovery.
You charge, then, that there is a cover-up.
That document speaks for itself. Those are not my words. Those are the documents that were prepared by the Vatican's representative in America and mailed to every bishop in America.
Jason, I have to give you the last word. What can we do? Briefly, sir.
I think society needs to realize that pedophilia is a pathological illness. It is an addiction like people who take heroin. And people who are this sick need to be treated. Put them in prison, sure, but make sure they get treatment so that when they get out, they don't do it over again. You know, this is a generational problem that exponentially increases every 30 years because a pedophile, Duke University study says that the, quote, average pedophile molests 265 kids. Well, what happens to those 265 kids? We need treatment, we need compassion, and we need the likes of medical assistance.
Those 265, we are told, become pedophiles, many of them themselves. True.
And indeed.
And the cycle goes on and on. It must be broken. We'll be right back.
Closer to you.
Closer every day.
Closer to you.
In the nicest way.
The best pre-Christmas sale is going on now at Metro Center. Shop in the holiday sparkle and see the exciting Santa's Parade Saturday at 11 a.m. Santa leads the way along with Rudolph, Frosty the Snowman, bands, clowns, and lovable costume characters. Stores open early, open late at Metro Center in Jackson.
Closer to you. Closer to you. Metro Metro Center.
There's no heartburn like your heartburn. And there's no leading antacid tablet like Gaviscon Extra Strength Relief Formula. The fire extinguisher, because only this Gaviscon dispatches a unique foam barrier to smother your heartburn, while acid neutralizers put out the fire. Gaviscon Extra Strength Relief Formula. The fire extinguisher.
If you've been injured, disabled, or you suffered the loss of a loved one, do the smart thing. Call David Nutt now at 355-3054. Don't talk to anyone else about your case, because people who contact you may not be on your side. What you say about your case now can mean whether you win or lose. David Nutt charges no fee until your case is won. Be smart. Call David Nutt and Associates at 355-3054. They'll fight for the money you deserve.
Get ready, Jackson. Regency Mitsubishi's hottest sale ever is back. $1 down delivers you a new 88 Mitsubishi car or a new 88 truck, and your payments will only be $101 per month for all of 88, all of 89. And at Regency Mitsubishi, it's regardless of equipment. Want an automatic? It's still $101. AM/FM cassette? It's still $101. Power sunroof, alloy wheels? It doesn't matter. It's $1 down and $101 a month for all of 88 and 89. It's incredible. It can't last long. It's Regency Mitsubishi.
In the 45 seconds we have left, I'd like to thank and again congratulate the assistant U.S. attorneys who joined us from Roanoke, Virginia, to thank two of their witnesses who joined us and had the courage to come forward, join the young victims here in our studio audience, thank our distinguished panel for discussing both sides of this issue. It is a difficult one, but one that must be addressed, and we thank you for your sincerity and for your eloquence. But now I have a personal note. This is a dear friend of mine. Her name is Viola, and today marks the, how many shows have you been to?
At 100.
100th program that she has attended. So we love her, and we love you. Love can conquer all, I hope. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Services have been furnished to the Geraldo Show in exchange for these announcements. Hotel accommodations in New York City provided by the Omni Park Central in mid-Manhattan near Carnegie Hall, Central Park, and Broadway theaters. Call 800-THE-OMNI or 212-484-3300.
Tell your kids to tell you if anything happens to them, whether it's a preacher, a doctor, or a teacher. Let them tell you. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye, folks.
I use Comstock to improve my love life. My neighbor Henry gets so excited when I talk Danish. Mr. Peabody always comes over for his Sunday treat. And Ramon gives me an extra mambo lesson whenever I show him a little cheesecake. For years, I've only used Comstock for pies. I've got a lot of catching up to do.
Peach cobbler, my favorite.
Well, come in and have some, Jimmy. Comstock, you can use it for more than you think.
At Cowboy Maloney's Appliance Video and Audio Superstore, we have one of the largest selections of refrigerators in the state of Mississippi. And at Cowboy Maloney's, we feature Frigidaire. You can get Frigidaire refrigerators from 14 cubic foot all the way up to 26
The countdown is over. Apollo 11, the movie, is coming up next. Tonight on The Fam Sunday Night Movie Event, a Family Channel original world premiere movie presentation. Where were you on July 20th, 1969? Witness mankind's greatest adventure, a voyage billions of years in the making. Apollo 11, the movie.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. We land here, the Sea of Tranquility.
This is the big one, gentlemen. We're going to be the first to put a man on the moon. I don't have to tell any of you what this means in terms of national pride.
Russians are moving very quickly. Delay would be a public relations crisis. We've got to be first.
The question is, can we be ready in 7 months?
We can't afford another devastating fire like Apollo 1. And we can't leave any of our men stranded on the moon.
Gentlemen,